An iceberg, sir. I put her hard to starboard and ran the engines full of stern, but it was too close. I tried to port round it, but she hit.
Everyone remembers Titanic as the blockbuster that made waves not just for its breathtaking portrayal of the tragic sea voyage, but also for its record-breaking success at the box office. Yet beneath the surface of this cinematic behemoth lies a torrent of controversies and secrets that go far beyond the iceberg's impact. From behind-the-scenes conflicts to a shocking on-set incident that never made the headlines, the making of Titanic was itself a story of high stakes and deep waters. Join us as we unveil the truth of what went down behind the scenes of Titanic. But to get the full perspective on how these events transpired, first we need to look back at where it all began. James Cameron, known for pushing the limits in films like Terminator and Aliens, had a vision that was more than just telling a love story aboard the ill-fated ship. His goal: to immerse audiences into the real-life tragedy of the Titanic, blending historical accuracy with heart-wrenching drama. But why did he choose the Titanic? Cameron himself said, "I made Titanic because I wanted to dive to the shipwreck, not because I particularly wanted to make the movie. The movie was my way of paying for the dive." So with this notorious perfectionist at the helm, this wasn't just another directorial gig. It was a passion project fueled by Cameron's fascination with shipwrecks. However, the backstory of Titanic isn't just about the allure of the doomed ship. It reflects Cameron's own tumultuous journey. His early life, marked by an intense obsession with filmmaking, often led him to clash with conventional Hollywood methods. This maverick approach spilled over into Titanic, where his uncompromising vision would sometimes result in fiery on-set exchanges and even physical injury to Cameron himself. Moreover, as the cameras rolled and the ship's tragic story came to life, the stage was set not just for cinematic glory but for events that threatened to overshadow even the film's monumental budget. A Titanic Budget. When James Cameron decided to direct Titanic, he didn't just dip his toes into the water. He dove in head first with a ship-sized budget. At the time, it was the most expensive movie ever made, with costs reaching almost $200 million. The scale was as colossal as the ship itself. To replicate the Titanic, Cameron built a near full-scale model that was 775 feet long. That's like 2 football fields end to end, not to mention the extensive digital effects and underwater shots that made it seem like you were really sinking into the icy depths of the Atlantic. But the budget wasn't just about construction and CGI. Cameron was all about authenticity, so he hired historians to ensure every detail was accurate. He even had the cast wear actual 1912-era undergarments. Imagine acting with a corset squeezing you, all while trying to stay afloat. Plus, the set was in Mexico, so they had to ship in thousands of tons of steel and concrete just to build the studio. Talk about a logistical nightmare. Despite these epic challenges, Cameron's obsession with realism paid off, creating a film that was as grand as the original ship's tragic maiden voyage. But the colossal costs had the studio sweating bullets, with rumors swirling that the whole thing could sink faster than the Titanic itself. The pressure was on, and every crew member felt it. But while the budget was soaring, the on-set conditions were about to take a dive. Enduring the elements. If you think working on Titanic was a smooth sail, you'd be way off. The cast and crew were literally diving into the deep end with harsh working conditions that made it seem like James Cameron was recreating the actual Titanic disaster. We're talking about long hours in cold, chlorinated water, which doesn't exactly scream Hollywood glam. Remember that scene where Rose and Jack are floating on a piece of wood in the freezing Atlantic? The actors had to endure those icy waters. And it wasn't just for a few minutes. We're talking hours of shooting with wet clothes clinging to their bodies. Kate Winslet later admitted she suffered hypothermia and almost quit the film. And you know how chlorine can irritate your eyes? Try keeping your eyes open underwater for extended takes. The crew had it just as bad, with the set being drenched and slippery, making every day a new opportunity for someone to take a nosedive. And let's not forget about the flu epidemic that hit the set like a tidal wave. With everyone constantly in and out of cold water, colds and flu spread like wildfire. It became a running joke that the film's biggest challenge wasn't the iceberg, but the invisible viruses lurking around. No wonder people were reaching for the hot tea and blankets in between takes. Cameron himself was known for pushing the cast to the limit, almost like he was auditioning for a spot on the actual Titanic. He believed that if the actors felt the cold, the audience would too. Yet, despite the cold and chaos, the real danger was lurking just beneath the surface. Drenched in danger. If you've ever seen the sinking scenes in Titanic, you know it looks like pure chaos. But behind the scenes, it was even more intense. The massive use of water to simulate the ship's sinking created a whole host of safety concerns that could have turned a blockbuster into a real-life disaster. We're talking huge volumes of water being dumped all over the set, creating slippery conditions and dangerous stunts. Director James Cameron didn't believe in half measures. He wanted realism, which meant constructing elaborate sets that could withstand the force of thousands of gallons of water. But with all that water came risks, both for the set and the people on it. Several cast and crew members suffered injuries during the shooting. Actress Kate Winslet shared in interviews that she had bruises the size of grapefruits after filming certain scenes. Imagine being an extra on set, and suddenly you're hit with a massive wave of water while wearing 1912-era clothing. Yeah, not the most comfortable day at work. And those dramatic stunts where people were failing off the ship? That's not CGI. That's real people taking real falls. It's a miracle the entire production didn't end up in a lifeboat for safety. Still, as if the physical risks weren't enough, the internal drama within the crew was intensifying. Crew turmoil. James Cameron is known for being a visionary director, but let's just say his management style on the set of Titanic wasn't exactly a cruise. High crew turnover was a thing, and it wasn't because everyone suddenly got other job offers. Cameron's demanding nature and stressful conditions turned the set into a revolving door of crew members. It all started with Cameron's legendary perfectionism. This guy wanted every bolt and rivet on the set to match the original Titanic. Imagine having to work for hours in freezing water or under scorching studio lights, all while Cameron is barking orders and nitpicking every detail. The stress levels were off the charts, and some crew members simply couldn't take it. There were stories of people walking off the set mid-shift because they just couldn't handle the pressure. One time, Cameron got so intense that a crew member actually punched him in the face. Yeah, that happened. The high turnover didn't exactly help the film's production timeline. Every time a crew member quit, it set back shooting because they had to find a replacement. And it's not like the replacements had it any easier. They were just stepping into a different level of stress. The film's budget was already sky high, and with people constantly leaving, it was like adding fuel to the fire. But Cameron had a reputation for getting the job done, even if it meant burning through crew members like it was going out of style. Despite the mounting tensions, one incident would send shockwaves through the entire production. The Great Chowder Incident. Imagine you're on the set of Titanic, and it's already a high-stress environment. Freezing water, long hours, and James Cameron's demanding style. Now throw in a mystery meal laced with PCP, and you've got the makings of a bizarre Hollywood story. That's what happened when an unknown individual spiked the crew's meal with phencyclidine, also known as angel dust, causing a massive disruption. The incident occurred one night when the crew was having a late dinner during production in Dartmouth, Nova Scotia. Out of nowhere, people started feeling strange. Some experienced severe dizziness, others had hallucinations, and a few even ended up in the hospital. In total, over 80 people were affected by the PCP spiked chowder. Talk about a bad trip. James Cameron himself felt the effects, saying later that his body felt like it was buzzing, like someone was sticking him with a cattle prod. The chaos that followed resembled a scene from a horror film, with people vomiting, hallucinating, and stumbling around like a zombie apocalypse had just broken out on set. The whole production had to be shut down until everyone recovered. Cameron naturally wanted to get to the bottom of it and demanded a full investigation. Yet, the culprit was never found. However, the controversy from the mystery meal would not be the only drama the crew had to face. Controversy and criticism. For a film that's often celebrated for its meticulous attention to detail, Titanic faced a surprising amount of criticism over its historical accuracy. James Cameron, the director, went to great lengths to ensure that the movie looked and felt like 1912, down to the smallest detail. He even had the china patterns on the dining tables replicated to match those on the actual Titanic. Yet, despite all this, the movie still caught flack for a few glaring errors and creative liberties. One of the most controversial issues was the depiction of historical characters. Take First Officer William Murdoch, for example. In the film, he's shown taking a bribe and then committing suicide, which caused a stir among historians and the people of his hometown in Scotland. They argued that there was no solid evidence to suggest Murdoch behaved that way during the disaster, and his family was understandably upset. Cameron eventually apologized and even made a donation to a charity in Murdoch's name, but the damage was done. Another point of contention was the portrayal of Titanic's band playing "Nearer My God to Thee" as the ship sank. Some historians believe the band actually played other tunes. Plus, the depiction of the ship's tilt as it broke in has been questioned for its realism. Was it artistic license or a misinterpretation of historical data? The jury's still out on that one. Yet, the backlash from the historical inaccuracies was nothing compared to the personal outrage that followed. Other character outrages. When Titanic was released, audiences were swept away by the epic love story and dramatic sinking sequences. But among historians and the families of some real-life characters, the portrayal of key figures caused quite a stir. The film's depiction of J. Bruce Ismay, William Murdoch, and shipbuilder Thomas Andrews sparked public and familial outcry, leading to debates about artistic license versus historical accuracy. J. Bruce Ismay, the managing director of the White Star Line, was shown as a self-serving coward who jumped into a lifeboat to save his own skin. This portrayal wasn't well received by everyone. Some historians and Ismay's descendants argued that his actions during the sinking were more complex and that he helped load lifeboats. The film's representation left a sour taste for those who believed it didn't capture the nuance of his decisions during the tragedy. Shipbuilder Thomas Andrews, played by Victor Garber, was portrayed more sympathetically, yet his character's screen time was minimal. Some critics and historians felt that his role in the ship's design and his actions during the sinking deserved more attention. It was another case where the film's dramatic focus on the love story overshadowed real-life heroism and human complexity. Though the uproar over character portrayals was intense, the fictional love story between Jack and Rose also drew its share of criticism. Love on board. The love story between Jack and Rose in Titanic is iconic, but it wasn't smooth sailing for everyone. Critics and historians argued that the fictional romance might trivialize the real-life tragedy, making it seem like a fairy tale instead of a catastrophic event that took over 2,500 lives. James Cameron's decision to place a romance at the heart of the film raised eyebrows and led to discussions about Hollywood's tendency to romanticize historical events. The fictional characters, Jack and Rose, were crafted to provide an emotional entry point into the story of the Titanic's doomed voyage, but some felt that their love story overshadowed the stories of real passengers and crew who endured unimaginable loss and suffering. By focusing on a romanticized narrative, the film could have inadvertently shifted attention away from the historical significance and human cost of the disaster. This romanticized storyline also sparked debate among Titanic enthusiasts and historians. While some believed it helped humanize the tragedy for a broader audience, others thought it diluted the gravity of the event by making it all about two star-crossed lovers. When you have sweeping orchestral music and a "paint me like one of your French girls" moment, it's easy to forget you're watching a movie about one of the deadliest maritime disasters in history. Nevertheless, even as the debate over the romance grew, the soundtrack was about to make an impact that almost didn't happen. The song that almost wasn't. When you think of Titanic, it's hard not to hear Celine Dion belting out, "My heart will go on." But did you know that song almost didn't make it into the film? The story behind the iconic soundtrack and its production is as dramatic as the film's sinking scenes. Composer James Horner was hired to create the film's sweeping score, and he worked closely with James Cameron. However, Cameron was initially against the idea of having a song with vocals over the end credits. He thought it might detract from the emotional impact of the film's closing moments, but Horner wasn't about to let that stop him. He believed a powerful ballad could be the perfect way to end the epic film. So Horner secretly collaborated with Celine Dion, who wasn't exactly unknown at the time. In fact, she was a major pop star. Horner recorded a demo of "My Heart Will Go On," hoping to win Cameron over. The big reveal came when he played the demo for Cameron, who was surprised by how well the song captured the film's emotional core. Despite his initial reluctance, Cameron agreed to include it. Turns out, it was one of the best decisions he ever made. "My Heart Will Go On" became a massive hit, earning Dion a Grammy and an Oscar for Best Original Song. It also helped cement Titanic as a cultural phenomenon. The song's success didn't just boost the film's popularity, it became an anthem for love and loss that resonated far beyond the movie theater. But behind the glittering success, the post-production crew faced a Titanic challenge of their own: editing the epic. The scale of Titanic was enormous, but the post-production challenges were just as epic. James Cameron's film was no ordinary editing project. We're talking a running time that flirted with the 3-hour mark and visual effects that were pushing the envelope of what was possible in 1997. The pressure was on, and the editing team had to navigate some rough waters to bring Cameron's vision to life. One of the most significant challenges was managing the sheer volume of footage. Cameron was known for shooting multiple takes, ensuring he captured every angle, every reaction.
Okay, let's do it again. Put it back together again as best you can. No explosions, and just let it rip.
But this left the editors with a mountain of film to sift through. Can you imagine trying to find the perfect shot amid hours upon hours of material? It's like finding a needle in a haystack, only the haystack is also sinking. Visual effects were another massive hurdle. The film relied heavily on CGI to recreate the Titanic and its tragic sinking. Cameron wasn't about to cut corners, so the VFX team had to deliver breathtaking effects on tight deadlines. From the ship's grand exterior to the dramatic breakup scene, each detail needed to be flawless. The team worked tirelessly, often through the night, to meet the schedule. no pressure, right? And then there was the film's length. Cameron had a lot to say, and he wasn't shy about it. But studio executives had concerns about audiences sitting through such a long movie. The editing team had to strike a balance between trimming the film and preserving its emotional impact. Eventually, Cameron stood firm on the running time, arguing that the story needed that extra length to unfold properly. In the end, the post-production crew pulled it off, but not without some sleepless nights and a few gray hairs. The result was a film that, despite its length and complex effects, captivated audiences worldwide. So next time you watch Titanic, remember that the editing room was just as intense as the film's sinking scenes. It might not have had lifeboats, but it sure had drama. Despite the hurdles in post-production, Titanic emerged as a monumental achievement, both in film and in popular culture. What did you find most surprising or insightful about this deep dive into the hidden layers of Titanic? Share your thoughts by commenting below. Don't forget to leave a like and subscribe to the channel for more. Thanks for watching.